I'm fairly good at doing conversation, small talk, big talk. But one of the things I realized in conversing usually with close friends of mine is many of them have actually told me that they feel that I'm weirdly prepared for their questions. Now, there is a very good reason for that quote unquote preparation. And the reason is that usually I have already thought about the question before I was asked it. And that, of course, goes along with just thinking a lot and being in my head. And so in many cases, when somebody asks me something, I will already have thought about the specific thing they ask me about or a similar concept, apply that. And I think that is probably something that I've also just learned from working in sales and bringing companies from 0 to 1. But I just noticed a consistent theme that people tell me this fairly a lot. Of course, being able to improvise is just something that comes with the job. And as an adult, somebody that likes to read, somebody that likes to speak with people, that is fairly normal. But I always felt that the moment I can actually share thoughts with someone, I feel a sort of relief, and it doesn't feel like it's stuck in my head anymore. And people can agree or disagree with me. I don't actually care all that much, but I just felt that it's kind of an outlet to be able to get things out of my head. And so I fairly recently, I went to a conference and I was invited to speak on stage, and I realized I really enjoy doing this. I enjoy public speaking. And while I think a podcast is probably not a very good example of public speaking, because I'm sitting here by myself in my condo, speaking to a camera and a microphone, it does still have this element of sharing your thoughts to many, hopefully many people, maybe to a few that find the things interesting that you have to say. And so after the conference, I decided, okay, well, this is something that, I should be doing now. Life is short, as everybody knows. We actually don't know when it ends. And so I feel there is a lot of untapped potential in me to actually make something of this, because I do think my superpower is actually connecting with people and being able to respond to any kind of person. That is something that my dad told me very early on, that, whether you're a bum or whether you're a billionaire, I think I will treat most people pretty much exactly the same. If they have an interesting story to tell, I will be all ears, would ask many questions. And if not, then probably not. And it doesn't interest me too much in what kind of social rank you have in society. So yeah, I decided, okay, I'm going to do something besides my very, very lovely job that I have right now. I'm very passionate about what I do. But yeah, I just wanted to start with that and find a format. And when thinking about the format, I'm terrible at social media. I do not like posting. The stuff that I've usually posted revolved around my photography work, usually working with models, working with people that know how to pose in front of camera, but I tended to always be behind the camera. And so this is me getting out of my comfort zone, actually becoming vulnerable. And I will probably speak about a bunch of pretty heavy stuff that I've experienced over the last few years. And hopefully some people can relate to that. Well, why I chose podcast, and I did a lot of research on this, why I chose a podcast format specifically and filming it now is just to be able to try different platforms. I also am trying to not overthink this and actually just get a few different things done and then see what I feel most comfortable with, what works the easiest, and how I can actually reach an audience. Yeah, and I've never done this before. This is my actual first time. So I hope you'll enjoy. In terms of audience, frankly, I don't know who I'm making this for. They always say, sell to somebody that you know first. So I think friends and family are the first ones that will have to endure this podcast. But I do feel there is a lot of people out there, both in the business field, entrepreneurs, CEOs, startup founders, creative people that have a lot of great ideas in their head, but they never actually get to do them. And I hope that some of the stuff I can talk about with a certain degree of authority will just inspire people to do the same and, find their true calling and find their passion. Because I feel I'm not there yet. but I'm definitely working on it. So if you're in that general category, if you feel that you have a lot of things in your head, but you never really get it out, or you don't know how to execute, I think it is a very, very common way of how people work these days. And I hope this is going to help you stopping to overthink and really taking action and just doing the things which are easy first, going with the flow, trying things out, and then coming up with fear, uncertainty, and doubt after you've actually tried, and not trying to have those things block you from ever even trying. If somebody were to listen to just 10 seconds of the podcast, and what would they walk away with? I think the one thing would be just stop overthinking it. So whatever you've always thought about doing, the person you always wanted to talk to, just reach out. You already have a no in 99.99% of the cases. Actually, you have a no in 100% of the cases already. So you just asking and reaching out or trying gives you a chance of a yes. Might be a really, really small chance, but you do have a chance at a yes. I really think that overthinking is a fear-based mechanism that stops people from doing what they want to do or should be doing. And so just try, just go for it. Just do it. For myself, I would have loved to just have better resources on how to start a startup, on how to get something done. Over the last 2-3 years or so, I've really spent an inordinate amount of time. I'm still German. Inordinate amount of time to find good resources that I can educate myself with, and to find things that help me discover my passion, quite honestly. And there's a couple of I think, podcasters, influencers out there which really have hit the nail on the head for me. And I'll talk about those maybe on some later episodes. My goal is actually to reach out to them and see if they want to have a chat with me. I think 10 years ago, I would have loved to have some better guidance, because I come from a university background in terms of entrepreneurship. And the more I've actually just worked at startups, and the more I've tried to build my own thing, the more I've learned that universities may be good for teaching you principles to think strategically, but in many cases, it's just really not what you need as an entrepreneur. You just need to get shit done. You just need to actually focus on the task at hand. And so I wish I had somebody on my side that could help me with that, and make action-oriented stuff a lot easier. Because I remember from my very first startup, Spam Experts, we sold anti-spam software. This company is still around. We sold anti-spam software, and all 3 founders, we were out of university, and we basically just had this idea of starting to sell anti-spam software, that helps you not receive emails you don't want. Initially I was hired as the first commercial person, and then I later became a founder of the company, because we didn't have enough money to actually pay ourselves a salary. So we pretty much worked for less than minimum wage. We just worked for enough that allowed us to keep the lights on and buy our groceries, but that was pretty much it. And so at the time, that I remember, the first thing that I thought was, well, who do we actually try to sell to? Who are our customers? And so, because we had dabbled in different things, we had tried to sell directly to consumers. We had tried to figure out, how to actually market to them. Of course, even at the time, running ads was extremely expensive, and we had no money, so there wasn't anything to be done there. We also got so many support requests, so it didn't really work out. But we had this one bigger customer, which was a hospital in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, which is where I lived at the time. And so we figured out that they liked that product, and then through our technical founder, our CTO, he had some pretty good connections into other technical people, basically, and they would run large organizations, some of them web hosting companies. And so we figured out that maybe web hosting companies would be a target audience to sell to, and we somehow managed to get our hands on a list of postal addresses of all those web hosting companies in Germany. And literally the first thing that I remember doing as an actual actionable thing was I created a postal letter. We printed it at our office printer. I think it was 1,500 letters. Yes, I licked 1,500 envelopes folded things. We somehow managed to mail merge addresses onto the actual paper, and we sent it out. We sent out 1,500 letters. It cost us about 1,500 euros at the time for postage. Printing was virtually free. The addresses we got for free. And we were a little bit sneaky in how we addressed the letter. It was also tricky to send the letter out because, of course, you don't want to spam people and sell them anti-spam software. So we basically just said, oh, hey, we found your address on this website. And we know that you're a web hosting company. We know that you're a web hosting company. And, would you like to have a chat? Like, would you like to buy our stuff, right? Here's our website, spamexperts.com. And we send it out. And of course, crickets for about, 4 or 5 days, absolutely nothing happened. And then all of a sudden we, received a couple of people that actually came to our website and they inquired about more information. It was awesome. But also within the first week or so, we got a cease and desist. So basically the website that we had quoted on the letter, they got wind of this. They got wind of, us having mailed all the people that they had on their website, and they asked us to immediately stop. Now, this is a very long-winded story of just telling you, and it ended up working out really, really great for us, actually, by the way. So fast forward, we talked to a bunch of these people from the list, and then one of the guys basically just said, okay, are you coming to this conference? Because I would love to meet you in person and have a chat about your product. And I pretended I knew exactly what he was talking about. I had no clue what conference he was talking about. But the conference was 2-3 weeks later. And then this is kind of, I think, the turning point from a commercial perspective of where we went from, okay, we don't know what the heck we're doing, to here is a conference where all of these companies that we had already mailed, sent physical mailer to, they would actually all be there, and we could, come up to their dinners and invite ourselves and have a bunch of beers with them. And so we did. The reason why I'm drilling into this so much is because the only thing that really made a difference here was doing it. We had absolutely no guarantees or no clue if a postal mailer would actually work, whether people would respond, how we would even sell the product, how much it was going to cost. None of that was really in the clear. And basically, we had 2.5, 3 weeks to prepare price list and some brochures that we printed overnight. And then we went to this conference, and the rest is history. So anyway, this is a long story to just drill down. The only thing that really made a difference here was us taking action and trying something out, sending out a postal mailer, somehow getting our hands on a bunch of addresses and then figuring it out. And this will be a recurring theme in the podcast. I will try to inspire you with random small ideas, and hopefully helps you. And you think, okay, well, I don't know, I'm selling paper clips to doctors, but I have no idea why they would be buying my paper clips, or how I would actually find all those doctors. Well, then maybe my story will inspire you to find a database of doctors online, find the addresses, and send them a sample paper clip. To summarize a bit more about my background, what it is that I actually do, and that I think I'm able to do reasonably well, is I've been working in sales and marketing all of my life. I've never been an ads person. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you the first thing on how to run an ad on Google. Anyway, don't know much about advertising, but I do know a thing or two about marketing, and specifically about business development and sales. And I will try to talk a lot about that, not so much because I'm hoping that struggling entrepreneur that is trying to sell some stuff, but because I'm hoping that my experiences as an entrepreneur can inspire you as a person to take action. Because most of the stuff that has led me to success was pure trial and error. You can develop a business plan on a whiteboard, but the actual day-to-day dirty operational stuff, really the number one skill you need for that is not thinking too much, and actually just being able to execute quickly and adapt quickly. And this is a truism, but I do think this will show through a lot in this podcast. And a common sales or marketing myth, I think, that I can only recommend unlearning is that your customers really care. the amount of times I hear founders talk about, oh, this is not in line with my brand, or, what are my customers going to think about that? Trust me, most people do not care. They do not know you exist. They do not know that you're even around. They don't follow your social media stories. They don't do any of this. Unless you're a mega brand like Nike or Apple, like you don't have to worry about your corporate image so much, right? So whether you do something which is, slightly, unconventional, let's call it that, I think you don't really have to worry so much about your brand. Brand only exists once you actually have customers, once you have people that pay you for the stuff that you do. Before that, it's pure experimentation, and I really hope you can see that when you listen to this podcast. One of the core themes that I pick up is persistence. Persistence is dear and near to me, and I've always, actually when creating the podcast, I've wondered whether it's counterintuitive to what I'm actually talking about, which is not overthinking things. That it's almost a contradiction to being persistent. Now, I think being persistent and not overthinking things can actually work together beautifully. Being persistent means you repeatedly try until it works. Being persistent does not mean you repeatedly try the same thing and expect a different outcome. I believe that's actually the definition of insanity. So for me, when you actually try to get something done, try to fail fast. And many entrepreneurs will tell you this, try to fail fast, just don't give up. And I believe Alex Hormozy is a big proponent of, you can only lose if you give up. And I strongly, strongly believe in that. And for my two daughters, for example, this is one of the key things that I try to teach them. Healthy habit building is probably the best thing you can teach a child. Not giving up too fast and just understanding that more reps always make you better. There is no way on earth that anything that you do in life, you're going to fail. I recently talked to a friend and she said, oh, I wish I was really good at dancing bachata. I don't know, by the way, how to dance, and I don't have a strong desire to do so. And I said, okay, well, cool. That sounds fun. How often have you tried? And she basically had tried once. And then she said, oh, I'm terrible at it. Like, oh, wow, okay. What else did you expect? And so I think that the core idea behind being persistent is, if it is near and dear to you, you should continue to try to do it until it works. And if the first time you try to dance or the first time you try to walk, you fall, you just get up and try one more time and try 5 more times and try 100 more times. And then at some point, you will get a certain level of proficiency, and probably, dancing bachata with a beginner is going to be super boring for you. So the number one thing why I'm so passionate about persistence is because I do think that persistence is the ultimate key to success. Everything else kept equal, persistence is actually going to get you there. And that works both in business, but it also works in relationships, and it works in different things. People nowadays, I feel they're so focused on short attention spans, which maybe actually you won't even listen to the end of the podcast anymore. But if you are persistent and you try to better yourself, you will succeed. And I'm trying that myself, by the way. So I'm learning piano right now, and I have no business in learning piano. I'm not a super musically inclined person. I love music, but I'm not very good at playing it. So right now I use my ability to type really fast on a computer keyboard, because I've been doing that for a very, very long time. And I try to translate that skill into actual piano playing. And I do the same for yoga. I'm terrible at yoga. I've never really done this in a structured way. But I just signed up for a yoga gym and to see and learn a new skill and, get some neuroplasticity going and try to just improve. The vision for the podcast, I don't have a grand vision. I'm not overthinking this. I am really focusing primarily on launching it, getting it out there, sharing it with a few friends, sharing it maybe with a few people that I don't know, get their feedback, see what they like, see what questions they come up with. And then over time, I'm hoping to be able to invite some interesting folks to the podcast. I don't want to be just talking head here by myself. Try to, make it interactive, actually do it in an interview style. But I don't have a specific vision of what the final product is going to look like, what kind of people I'm going to talk to. I do have a few authors on my list. I do have a few podcasters that I admire on the list. that can actually speak very authoritatively on this topic, and not overthinking things, persistence, habit formation, sales, entrepreneurship, and these kinds of things. But the overall vision is not clear yet, and I will just keep you posted on what happens. While success, I think for me would be if I manage to really get anybody to join me, anybody that I look up to in the podcasting world. I would think that it's a wild success if they take their time, if they take an hour to speak to me, and I would prepare the heck out of this podcast. Yeah, so that would be for me a success. Also just because they've helped me over the last few years, and specifically the last few months, to overcome some stuff that I've been going through personally. And so yeah, I'd love to send them a thank you and to speak to them one-to-one. So with this is my attempt at a very first episode, starting with the why. Why am I doing this? Trying to share, and this almost seems like a godlike moment. The sun is shining into my face. Why am I doing this? I'm hoping to inspire people. I'm hoping to leave the world a slightly better place than it is today. I'm hoping to get some people through some difficult situations. And I will go into a lot of personal details, I guess, because keeping everything abstract and just talking about concepts without actually ever sharing your stories, to me, doesn't really work. I want to talk about my own struggles, my own fallacies, and hopefully show you that we're not so different, that everybody can get through difficult stuff all by themselves, and maybe with a little bit of help. Thank you so much.